You've heard of the Akira Slide, right? If you haven't, you've definitely seen something that's paid tribute to it. That iconic scene from Akira has been referenced in more pieces of media than I can count, and I'm one of them. I'm Oceanax, and for my friend's birthday, I decided to draw their Vtuber doing the slide on their hover bike. Please enjoy my own twist on the classic Akira Slide, while I talk about my art process and give some tips on making illustrations like these. So, I pretty much always start drawings like this with constructing this sketch first. I do my sketches in different colors depending on different parts of what things are, and I often draw this kind of worm-like shape when I'm drawing bodies. It helps me to measure out how tall the body should be. Each circle is meant to represent a head. You've often heard that bodies are about 6, 7, 8 heads tall, depending on the style that you're working with. So this helps me get the right sort of proportions for everything, although you have to adjust, as you can see, to make sure that it fits with the perspective. I usually draw the bodies first in a drawing, and then backgrounds and props like this bike that we have here later. You can see that with the bike, I typically kind of break it down into these more basic sort of shapes, and then figure out where the details and where things connect afterwards. I was obviously working with a design that was pre-constructed for this, but the specific angle of this bike was a little hard to figure out. It takes a bit of moving things around in your head in order to figure out how things should be, and making some slight adjustments to make sure that it makes sense with this sort of drawing, with this sort of pose. With this background, I initially wanted to go for something a bit more cityscape-like, very similar to the original Akira, but I quickly scrapped that, as you can see, to go with something a bit more different, to give this a different sort of vibe to just straight-up copying Akira. So I went with these desert dunes, this very orangey and reddish sort of background, as you'll see later on. Now, we of course want to add some of these cool kind of effects to indicate the skid of the bike pushing away on the foot, and I also added one on this exhaust area because this is a hover bike. It doesn't have wheels like Akira does, like the bike in Akira does, so I can add random floating particles where there would be none. You can see as well with drawing the hair, I've pushed the ears forward because the bike is sliding backwards, so the ears will be pushed backwards by the wind. I usually draw, as I mentioned, these different sketch parts are in different colors because it makes it a lot easier to see what everything is. I draw the body in this blue color, which contrasts nicely with the green, with the yellows of the effects, the red that I've done for the bike itself, and the background you'll see that I've done in this kind of darker purple type of color. It makes it very easy to distinguish what things are what, because otherwise you'll just have this really messy mixture of lines and you can't tell anything apart. Starting with the lines, usually I do draw the body first, but for this specifically, I did start by doing the line art for the bike first. That's because the character is going to be sitting on top of the bike, so I wanted to make sure that I had the base, the shape of the bike down so that I could position the body properly on top of the bike and figure out what parts would be occluded, what parts will be showing, and make sure that I'm not missing anything and that everything makes sense, basically. You'll see later on that I did make some mistakes in terms of the design of the bike. These sort of little wing flap parts, I got a bit confused on how they are shaped, so we'll be making some adjustments to those later, but I'm pretty happy overall with the shape of the bike, the shape of the soft sort of cushions, the sort of heads-up display at the front of the bike. I think that it makes it look very sleek. It's not entirely my design. This is a friend's Vtuber design who has this bike. They have a very cyberpunk sort of aesthetic already, which is a little bit similar to Akira to begin with, though maybe a little bit more solar punk than cyberpunk. You'll see with the sail, it being a hover bike. The sword as well. The sword is very cool. That was very fun to work on. Now, I usually start drawing when it comes to line art with the face, drawing the expression, getting the details for that done. Kind of, the face is a very central point, and working outwards for that, I usually find is very, very useful. It's very, it helps to sort of guide where things should be. It helps to figure out what the focus of things should be. Not every drawing has a face in it, obviously, but for me personally, I like to focus on that first and figure things out from there. It was a lot of fun drawing this mechanical arm that you're seeing being drawn right now. This mechanical arm, humanoid, but making these joints, these robotic parts, these metal plates, the shoulder pad with the spike. Very, very cool. Very, very cool details and aesthetics, and it's a fun twist compared to drawing just a regular human arm. It's really interesting. Although I don't necessarily specialize in drawing armor, it's really fun to draw these kind of interesting clothing and accessories that a character has. Hey, I won't interrupt for long. This is just a quick reminder to subscribe. I'd really appreciate it, and it helps out a lot. Anyway, back to the video. This is based on very much the Akira Slide screenshot. So I did base the flow of the clothing, it being kind of kind of blown by the wind almost as the character is sliding backwards. But you'll see there are some adjustments because obviously it's not exactly the same type of clothing, and especially the sword on the back. The sword, getting the sword, the perspective of the sword right was surprisingly difficult because swords are a deceptively simple shape, and getting them to work in different angles can be difficult sometimes. You can end up with them looking very strange at very odd angles. It can be hard to get them looking just right, but I'm very happy with how this turned out. I'm very happy with how this overall turned out. I really like all the details that I snuck in here. The sort of pistons on the side of the bike, and these effects were very fun to draw. It's very fun drawing kind of smoke and lights sort of effects. This is where I'm adjusting the wings on the side, as I mentioned, to actually be wings and not weird shapes floating off to the side as they're intended to be. Which I then followed up with the colors, coloring things in. Just doing the flat colors is relatively quick because, you know, fill tool is very useful and I recommend using it. But it takes a bit of fiddling around to get the right colors for things sometimes, to get things in the right place, and the fill tool doesn't always work. It works if you've got clear borders for things, which isn't always the case, and especially with the sort of pen that I use, that is a little bit grainy and not always completely opaque. The fill tool doesn't always fill things in exactly right. We've got the background here again, as you can see, and it took a little bit to get the colors right for the background. I wasn't entirely sure whether I wanted to do a sort of night scene or a sunset. I did decide on a sunset. I thought that the character being sort of illuminated from, at first I was going to have them illuminated from the back, but I realized that I wanted them instead to be illuminated from the front to show off the details of the character, to make it more visible. You wouldn't really be able to see much if it were illuminated from the back. But I did keep this sun at the back, which is a nice kind of a nice glowy touch. It let me, as you can see, let me kind of silhouette the things in the back, like have this very distant light source, and imply that some sort of vehicle perhaps that the character is skidding away from is what is illuminating this character from the front a lot more brightly and a lot more less of an orange glow to it. It was really fun drawing these clouds. I love drawing clouds. Clouds are so, there's something very soft and nice about clouds, drawing this very, very light shading on them, and then this harsh, bright glow where the sun is reflecting off the edge of them. It's a really, really nice effect, I think. I really love drawing things like that, and the glow of the sun as well in the background as it's setting against the red dunes. I think the redness in this piece is, it really makes it feel kind of, it's got a really nice vibe to it. I don't know how to explain it, but the blue of the character as well really makes that stand out, and then the purple of the road as well makes the red of the bike stand out, so it kind of contrasts really nicely. You can see here where I'm adding the shading, making things a little, they're sort of lit by the front, but also there's a little bit of backlighting to give a bit of a little bit of both, so that you can probably see the character, so that you can understand where the light is coming from, but also so that you can see that the road itself is lit more from the front. So we've got a mixture of different lighting types in here to make sure that things pop and to make it a very interesting piece. The darkness of the background really makes the brighter character stand out a lot more against it. It makes the silhouette against the sun very interesting to look at, and it makes sense because that's how eyes work when it's something is silhouetted against something very bright. Your eyes will darken it. It did take a little bit to get the shading exactly. I really enjoyed the glow, the shine rather, of these golden trims of the arm and the cloak. Doing shine of metal and things like that is very, very fun. Metal is very interesting to shape because it works very differently from clothing and other materials. It has a very irregular type of shading to it that I find very interesting. Similar to the sword, I really wanted the sword to appear kind of almost crystalline in nature. So these multicolored shards where the light is kind of reflecting off of things in a manner that doesn't quite make sense. And then we have some glow, and that pretty much completes the piece, which I am very, very happy with, and I think it's a very cool tribute to Akira. I hope you enjoyed this Akira Slide illustration. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and check out this other video I made too. See you next time!